Hello, how's it going? I hope you're doing fine. Hi, and welcome to Confidence Equals Beauty with Amanda Taylor. I'm your host, Amanda Taylor. And guys, I have been on an MIA trying to figure out how to survive life, honestly. So I'm going to work on this recording the best I can. This recording is probably going to be the most chaotic of all the ones because there's so much kind of running through my brain. And I'm just going to kind of take you on this journey with me. And we're going to hope for the best. First, I want to just apologize that I have been missing in action. It has been a very crazy season. And vulnerability is not my strength. I don't do well with opening up to others, and I don't do really well with sharing everything that is going on. I am really good at closing up, going into my cave, and kind of handling things on my own. Now, this also contradicts everything that I stress to women, and not just women, but mainly this podcast focuses on women, but it goes against everything that I stress to you guys and try to encourage you to have a community, open up, be vulnerable, be authentic. And so this is my effort. Instead of talking the talk, I'm walking the walk. And I really am trying my hardest. If I'm going to really be there loving on you, serving you, trying to share what is, trying to help you find your best moments in your life, trying to help you meet goals, trying to build confidence in yourself, and trying to just be your cheerleader, I too have to follow the same things that I am working with and teaching you. So let's go back to December. So my grandmother passed away at 89 years old, and I am 41, and I can just say I am so grateful I had my grandmother in my life for this long. With this death, I knew it was coming. And let me kind of share what happened is I was down. My family all lives about 3 hours away from me, so I was down visiting, doing some activities for Christmas. My aunt, we have a family group message, and my aunt had mentioned my grandmother having fever and an infection, and she's going downhill fast. People who know my grandmother has pretty much outlived everybody. When my aunt sends this text, I usually am like, oh, grandma's going to bounce back. Grandma's going to be fine. This woman is my hero. She is everything that I want to be. This woman was just an incredible influence in my life, and she meant so much to so many people. And she's just a strong woman. I cannot even say it enough. My grandmother was amazing and such a strong woman for what she ever had to endure in her life. So once again, see this text message, and I'm like, oh, grandma's going to bounce back. And when I was visiting with my father and stepmother, I looked in my stepmother's eyes as my aunt is sending this text message, and I see something isn't right in my stepmother's eyes. My stepmother is probably one of the best women of following her intuition, following the Holy Spirit, and being very in tune with, I guess, others. She just knows. Like, she just knows when something's happening. And I looked into her eyes and I just saw something wasn't right. I was supposed to have lunch with my dad and spend the day with my father and my stepmom. And I looked at them and I was like, I need to go see grandma. So we jumped in the car and we drove the 30 minutes to where she was living in her assisted living. And I took my two girls and we walked in and she was asleep. You could see she was trying to respond, but she definitely was, I would say, she was counting her last minutes. So I got my daughters to visit, and some of the things we do when we visit my grandmother is she loves music, so we sang to her, and she'd lift her eyebrows and respond, and it was just such a beautiful moment. And I'm going to try not to get teary-eyed talking about it because I really haven't spoken about it to many people, except that it was her time. And so my aunt comes by and she kind of entertains my daughters because me and my stepmother just kind of needed a moment. And so as I'm stroking my grandmother's hair and holding her hand, I just felt this moment of saying, Grandma, it's okay. You've lived a beautiful, beautiful life, and it's okay to go now. And I took a breath. I cried my tears, wiped my tears up, let my daughters kind of see, they kind of came back and they kind of saw this moment. I let them say their goodbyes. And when I got into the car to drive back to my dad and stepmom's house, I had a peace I cannot explain, except it's the peace that God promises, a peace that just goes beyond our understanding. And I had a peace. I knew my grandmother was a Christian woman. I knew she had a tough life, but she had a beautiful life. She was the woman that made anything and everything happen. When the world told her no, she rose up above it. And so I finished up spending time with my stepmother and my dad, and we drove back home, 3 hours back to my house. And that night when I went to sleep is when I found out she did pass away that evening. And I apologize, I have sniffles. One, I have a cold, and two, I'm tearing up speaking of the story. But it was definitely a different experience because my grandparents had all passed away back when I was younger. I think other than this grandmother, the last one that passed away was her husband, and he passed away, I think, 12 years ago. So I was in my 20s. But this, as being a 41-year-old woman, it really hit me in a whole different way. It was the realization of your life and the meaning of your life. It showed me I am so thankful for my relationship with Jesus Christ and that promise of going to heaven. But with all this, even though grandmother was old and it was her time and I had a peace about it, there was still grief. A grief in a different way than I had ever experienced when a grandparent suddenly passed away, or anybody that I've known that has passed away. It was a grief that was peaceful, but I still had to go through the emotions of it. And I felt very guilty because I felt like I should have been at her funeral. It was a beautiful graveside, small, intimate. I felt like I needed to have this outward expression of crying and just all that, but I didn't. I felt at peace. Yes, I'm going to miss her, but it was more of a gratitude of 41 years of my life. This woman was part of my life. And then, like I said, the promise of heaven, but the grief was still real. I may not have experienced the denial or the anger aspect of it, but I did feel the sensation of a big hole in my life, of a generation, the last closure of that generation, of my family. Now it's up to me to figure out the recipes and let grandmother's legacy live on. It was kind of like this responsibility of, oh, I wish I had known more stories and all of the thousands of stories I already knew about her. It was a moment of, so this is what a life, a full lived life, that's what it feels like when it's gone. So I had to go through that process of grieving. It didn't show up like I have seen it in the past. It showed up very differently. And so working through that, and of course it happened in December, so then the holidays come around. Many of you guys know my husband and I were a blended family, and we have children coming and going. And this happened to be our year for Christmas, the week before Christmas, that the children were with, was it? I don't know. Y'all, let me get Bo back. It was the year. I got to look through my calendar because I'm going to be honest with you, trying to keep up with our visitation schedules over the holidays is always tough. Okay, correction. It was not our year to have the kids before Christmas. It was our year to have the kids after Christmas for a week after Christmas. See, this is why, welcome to my life. My life is a Google Calendar and my brain gets all mixed up with dates. So when we have the children, this means my daughter, as of now, my husband's two sons, the oldest one has his own family, has moved off, and then our daughter together. This is the one of 4 times a year that all the children are together. Which means, as a family, We have to come together and blend effectively, efficiently, and quickly. And becomes very challenging because as these children go back and forth between the two different parents, there is expectations in the home that changes. I have certain expectations. The other children's parent has other expectations, and trying to navigate that when they're crossing into our home, it becomes a little bit of a tricky situation because my rules are different, and I am very understanding, and I'm very lenient, not lenient, but I'm very understanding and compassionate about, hey, when you're together here, these are the expectations. This is what needs to happen. On top of that, we're trying to spend as much quality time together and balance extended family. So oftentimes this looks like we pick up a kid from the airport, another kid's driving in, picking up a kid from the meeting spot with the other parent, and our child, our daughter, she's along for the ride because she's with us all the time. And balancing, trying to make sure we see the extended family fair and all that. And I come from a divorced family, my side. So there are multiple divisions on this between my mom's side and my father's side. And then I have a man who raised me for 20 years who I still call stepdad, and balancing his side of the family. On top of that, that means my siblings and their children. So it becomes a very, very, very chaotic moment. Sometimes we're able to meet everyone's needs, and sometimes we have to say a lot of no's, which we don't like saying. But for our sanity as husband and wife and our children together, it becomes challenging. So during the holiday times, I tend to go off the radar. I kind of get off social media, I get off everything because I only have so many years, specifically with my stepsons, because they only come every so often. I only have so much time to spend time with them. And these are the only boys I will ever have. And so I love them with all my heart, like they're my own. Same thing with my daughter. My husband is a great stepfather to her, and he wants to cherish every moment he has with her. And then we have on ours together, and she, bless her little heart, she's stuck with us all the time, but she's a trooper, and it's confusing for her having brothers come in and sister come in here and then leaving and all that. But like I said, we navigate it as beautifully as we can. But when we're together, there's something magical watching the children work through their kinks and work through their relationships and their friendships as siblings. So holiday time tends to be very chaotic. And so I just made a decision during the holidays. I wasn't going to stress over podcasting or anything extra that could add stress of taking away from me and my children and my husband. So then January comes. I haven't shared this story very much, but I do feel like it needs to happen. For the last 2 years, I've had a miscarriage in January. So that's 2 miscarriages in the last 2 Januaries. And I did not realize, I knew there would be grief, but I did not realize how much grief I would experience in January of these 2 miscarriages that have happened in my life. It's a grief that I cannot explain because it's a grief of something you never got to meet. It's a grief of unfairness, unjust. It's also a grief of the acceptance that my husband and I had made after this last miscarriage of what our future was going to look like, and some decisions we made to make sure we moved forward in our lives, and it was beautiful and it progressed and we didn't have to look back. But the hole in my heart of knowing or wishing of what could have been, I was reminded of in January. I realized in January there were some things I needed to work through. I had never really experienced this before. So there are things that I needed to work on myself. There was some counseling involved. There was recognizing extra stressors, extra things that I just did not need to deal with. Unfortunately, the podcast was one of them, so I do apologize that you guys were kind of left and put to the side. But I knew I could not be effective if I was going through my own stuff. And that is one of the key things that I cannot stress enough about confidence equals beauty, is if you are not taking care of yourself and you are not self-caring and doing the things that you need to heal, you will not achieve the confidence level you will ever need or want. So I do believe that God makes all things good. I do believe that He used that grief, what I was really experiencing in January, the feelings that I had never experienced before. I do believe God was carrying me through that. And God was like, this now is time to really, really face some things and heal. So that's exactly what I've done. Then, of course, school starts back and we're back in the hustle and grind of life. I'm a Girl Scout troop leader, so we have been like just sky high in cookie sales and girls' activities and the boys' activity. I mean, you name it. We have just been going and going and going. I've had to learn also in this season, it's okay to say no. I've talked about it so many times about saying no. Now it was my turn. I say this, and I'm kind of going to get off topic for a second, but like it never fails when I put something on a blog or this podcast, or if I speak it into existence, God in the universe has a way of making me face the things that I'm trying to love on you and serve you and help you out. I face these things too. I feel like this season of just kind of hectic and crazy was God's way of saying, okay, Amanda, are you going to practice what you preach? Are you going to take care of yourself? Are you going to prioritize what needs to be prioritized? Are you going to be vulnerable, authentic, and true to yourself, just like you are teaching everybody else to? I feel like God was saying, you may have the credentials and the education behind you, but it means nothing unless you are yourself doing the things that make you, one, serve me, serve others, and serve your family, and then serve yourself. I know that may not be the correct order of things, but that's kind of how my mind is operating today. So this season has definitely been a season I've had to say no to a lot. I've had to really, really, really get my schedule in order. Make sure the girls, because the girls live with me pretty much full time, make sure their schedules, I'm not overdoing it. I'm not overcommitting myself. And I've had to let some things kind of fall to the side until I felt in my heart God was saying, okay, it's time to pick it back up and let's go. So here I am, picking it back up, being vulnerable with you, sharing with you the reasons of my absence, but also to let you know, I'm not just someone telling you how to or encouraging you or trying to serve you. I'm real. I'm real. I go through life. The only thing I've struggled with, and I'm going to use you guys as accountability, is I've got to become more vulnerable. And I'm not trying to air out dirty laundry and all that, but I have to be more vulnerable with, like, I am real. I can show my authentic self. I can be real. In closing, talk about a direction I would like to go in adding to this podcast. And I want to call it relax into your season. I have had a stretch of a season of just ups and downs, craziness, but it's also had beauty in it. There's been some moments of like sadness and grief, but there's also been promises of hopes and future. The thing that I learned in this season is sometimes you just have to relax into it and allow the season to be what it is. There are things we cannot control. I cannot control the death of my grandmother, the craziness of holidays as far as court order visitations, because me and my husband were previously married and we had children. And now we're married together, and that comes with its craziness of blending a family. We can't control that. I cannot control that Christmas falls every year on the same date, and I either have kids with me or I don't. I cannot control when my emotions get the better part of me as far as grief. But I can control how I respond to it. And you can. In the season you are in, you can control yourself. But trying to plow through and push through to get to the next season because the season you're in may be difficult, you may be missing on the most important, valuable lessons of that season. There are going to be seasons that are just rocking and rolling and amazing. And by all means, oh my gosh, relish every moment of those good seasons when you're feeling like you're on the mountain and everything is just rocking and rolling and going your way, and it's amazing. And I'm trying to create more adjectives and they're just not coming to my brain right now. But those seasons, relish them, because once that season passes, you cannot get that season back. But in the difficult season, I want you to try an exercise. I want you to take some deep breaths. You're going to breathe in for 3 counts. You're going to hold your breath for 3 counts, and you're going to let it out. So let's try that together. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Hold. 2, 3. Let out. Let's do it again. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Let out. I think I added some numbers there, but that's okay. You get the point. When you feel you can't take it anymore, you feel overwhelmed, you feel the negative of life or the weight of the world on your shoulders, I want you to practice breathing and relaxing into the season. You trying to fight against a season is only going to cause you more stress and more harm. If you can recognize, and what I mean by relax into the season is you recognize what season you're in, accept what you can change, and accept what you can't. But find the learning, the value in the current season you're in. That is where you are going to find so much progress and growth in yourself. You'll come out of it. You will feel more confident that you got through that season. You will feel like you've conquered it. You will feel that it wasn't as bad as you thought it was, and you had the strength and the willpower, and you had everything to get through it. So I'm going to encourage you, relax into your season. And I'm going to be adding this into the podcast. We're going to talk about, the problems, the concerns. We're going to talk about how to fix it. We're going to talk about all the things, but I also want to add in that breathing technique. And I want us to be able to just relax and recognize where we are. Because I feel like, and I'm going to speak to moms, because that is where the season I'm in. I'm in a season of teenagers, preteens, and getting out of the toddler stage. And and young adult stage, because the oldest has moved out and has his own family. And let me tell you, the season of mom, I can recognize now when I look at moms, we can recognize and we kind of look at each other like, gotcha there. Whatever season you're in there for a reason and a purpose. So let's find the beauty. Let's find the learning. Let's rejoice. Let's relish. Even if it's a bad season, still relish it, because you're not going to get that season back. So let's add that into our podcast as we keep adding new things. And guys, thank you for holding in, sticking with me through this. I love you guys, care deeply for you. The one thing, if there's one thing I want this community to just recognize, is you are fearfully and wonderfully made in God's image. God created you for a purpose, with a purpose, and you can do anything and everything you set your mind to. I want you to look in the mirror and see the beauty that you may not recognize right now, but there's so much beauty in you. It doesn't matter what size you are. It doesn't matter what your looks are. It doesn't matter any outwardness. I still want you to figure out how to look at yourself and love yourself for who you are, because you were made just the way you are. And then I want you to be able to see inside of you and the true beauty that grows within inside of you. And that is the whole purpose of Confidence Equals Beauty, is just empowering you, loving on you, serving you, so you feel the best you can. And remember, confidence equals beauty. Bye, guys. Love you.